Tell me how you want me to cut this.
Just make it nice and neat.
That'll be $8.
For over 30 years, Coming to America has been more than just a movie. It is a beloved fairy tale. We all know the story of Prince Akeem leaving his kingdom of Zamunda to find his queen in Queens, New York. But what if the laughter on screen was hiding a war behind the scenes? What if the story you love was born from a secret tragedy, a bitter feud, and a lie so big it took a massive lawsuit to expose it? The cast of Coming to America has a story to tell, and it is one most fans never figured out. The explosive feud between Eddie Murphy and John Landis.
Hey, boy, why you so worried about how you look anyway?
Well, I am trying to gain the interest of a certain young lady.
I ain't never heard no woman giving no man no loving just 'cause his hair look good.
That's right.
To understand the war that almost tore Coming to America apart, you have to go back 5 years earlier to a film called Trading Places. On that set, a young rising star named Eddie Murphy and a hotshot director named John Landis had a great time working together. Murphy was new and full of energy, and Landis helped make him a superstar. But by the time they reunited for Coming to America, everything had changed. A terrible tragedy had derailed Landis's career and created a dark cloud that would hang over the production. In 1982, while directing his part of Twilight Zone, the movie, a helicopter stunt went horribly wrong. The scene was meant to be a chaotic Vietnam War sequence filled with explosions. Landis, known for his desire for realism, made a series of reckless decisions. He illegally hired two young child actors, 6-year-old Renee Chen and 7-year-old Micah Dean Lay, to be in the scene, paying them under the table to avoid child labor laws that would have forbidden them from working so late at night around explosives. He even hid the children from the set's fire safety officer. During the take, Landis repeatedly ordered the helicopter pilot to fly lower and lower, despite warnings from the crew that it was too dangerous. The massive special effects explosions engulfed the helicopter's tail rotor, causing the pilot to lose control. The aircraft crashed, killing actor Vic Morrow and both of the young children instantly. The accident was so horrific that Landis was put on trial for involuntary manslaughter. Though he was eventually found not guilty in 1987, the scandal left a dark mark on his name, and his career was hanging by a thread. By 1988, Eddie Murphy was the biggest movie star in the world. He was so powerful that he was originally going to direct Coming to America himself. But remembering the chance Landis gave him on Trading Places, Murphy decided to do him a favor. He personally hired Landis to direct the film, hoping to help his old friend get back on his feet. It was supposed to be a generous act, but it ended up creating a perfect storm of anger and resentment. The friendly director and the energetic young actor from Trading Places were gone. In their place was a director bitter about his fall from grace and a superstar who was now the most powerful person on set. Landis later described the Murphy he worked with on Coming to America in shocking terms. He said the young Murphy was fresh and great, but the new Murphy was the pig of the world, calling him an arrogant person with a bullish entourage. The power dynamic had completely flipped. Murphy was now the boss, and he expected to be treated like one. Landis, on the other hand, was used to being in charge and seemed to resent Murphy's new status. Murphy felt that he was doing Landis a huge favor by hiring him, but Landis did not see it that way. This clash of egos created a toxic environment on set, but the real reason for the feud ran much deeper and was far more personal. For years, the fighting was blamed on clashing personalities, but the truth came out in a bombshell interview Murphy gave to Playboy magazine. The real reason Landis was so angry was that he felt personally betrayed by Murphy. During Landis's long and public trial for the Twilight Zone deaths, he had expected his famous friends to show up in court to support him. But Eddie Murphy never came. Landis held on to this resentment for years. Murphy explained his side of the story, and it was a powerful one. He said his principles would not let him go to that trial. In his own words, if you are directing a movie and two kids get their heads chopped off at 12 o'clock at night when there are not supposed to be kids working, and you said action, then you have some sort of responsibility. Murphy simply could not, in good conscience, stand up and support Landis in court. This decision, based on Murphy's own moral code, was seen by Landis as a deep and personal betrayal. So when Murphy hired him for Coming to America, Landis was not grateful. He was angry and looking for payback. The tension finally exploded in a shocking on-set confrontation. According to Murphy, Landis began publicly disrespecting him and his business associates. One day, in front of the entire cast and crew, Landis started screaming at two of Murphy's writers. He yelled at them about not being paid yet by Murphy's company, shouting, "Don't be afraid to ask Eddie Murphy for his money. You go up and ask for your money." Humiliated and furious that Landis was putting his business in the street, Murphy walked over to him. As he told it, he playfully grabbed Landis around the throat. When Landis tried to make a joke of it, Murphy tightened his grip and cut his wind off. He said Landis fell down, his face turned red, his eyes watered up, and he ran off the set. The feud had moved from bitter words to a physical altercation. The story behind the iconic costumes.
Will you taste the soup? It's wrong. Is the soup too cold? Will you just taste the soup? All right, I'll taste the soup. Where's the spoon? Aha! Aha!
While a war was brewing between the star and director, a different kind of magic was being created, one that would earn the film an Academy Award nomination. The costumes of Coming to America were designed by Deborah Nadulman Landis, the director's wife, and her work was so iconic it helped define the fairy tale vision of Africa for a generation. Landis wanted to create a version of Africa that was elegant and beautiful, a direct contrast to the turmoil often shown in the news at the time. She spent years studying different African cultures, from Kenya to Senegal, to create the unique look of Zamunda. She wanted the royal family to look like they would wear high fashion, so she combined the styles of French designer Christian Dior with traditional African clothing. The result was a fairy tale vision of Africa, full of vibrant colors and regal silhouettes. One of the most memorable costume pieces was the massive lion's head stole worn by King Jaffe Joffer. Landis said that after meeting the powerful actor James Earl Jones, she knew he was the only person who could walk into a Queen's barbershop wearing a full lion on his shoulder. The lion was not just a symbol of wealth. It was meant to show the king bringing a piece of Africa with him to New York. The details were incredible, right down to the zircon crystals in the lion's eyes, representing the minerals from his home country. Landis also used the costumes for humor. When designing the uniforms for the McDowell's restaurant workers, she had a funny idea. She asked Eddie Murphy if it would be amusing to put two African men, Akeem and Semi, in a traditional Scottish tartan plaid pattern, complete with the little hats. Murphy loved the idea, and the ridiculous uniform became another classic part of the movie. But perhaps the most famous costume was the one that happened by accident. Lisa McDowell's stunning pink wedding dress, which has become one of the most beloved wedding gowns in movie history, was never supposed to be pink. Landis originally tried ivory and yellow fabrics, but they did not look right on actress Sherry Headley. A blue dress felt too sad. The final blush pink gown was a last-minute choice that turned out to be perfect. While the dress itself was made from inexpensive material, the crown was the real deal, made with real turquoise, pearls, and other gems, all plated with 14-karat gold. It was a costume fit for a queen, created for a movie that was becoming a modern classic, even as chaos unfolded just off camera. Casting secrets and what-ifs. Another struggle was taking place with the studio over who could even be in the movie, revealing secrets that showed just how different the film could have been. One of the most shocking secrets is that the character of Maurice, the friendly McDowell's employee played by Louis Anderson, was never supposed to be in the movie. Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall wanted to make a film with an entirely black cast. But in the 1980s, the studio, Paramount Pictures, was afraid that a movie without a white face would not sell tickets. According to Murphy and Hall, the studio executives forced them to add a white character. They were like, "There has to be a white person in the movie," Murphy recalled. I was like, "What?" The studio gave them a list of 3 white actors to choose from. Murphy and Hall looked at the list and picked the one they knew was a great comedian, Louis Anderson. As Murphy put it, "Who's the funniest white guy I know?" Louis' perfect. Interestingly, Louis Anderson himself used to tell a different, more heartwarming story about how he got the part. He claimed that years before, when he was still an unknown comic, he was at a restaurant and saw Eddie Murphy and his friends having a big meal. As a fan, Anderson anonymously paid their entire bill, which was hundreds of dollars. According to this version, Murphy was so touched by the gesture that he later called Anderson and offered him the role. Whether it was a kind gesture or a studio mandate, Anderson's casting became a memorable part of the film. The cast we know and love almost looked very different. Imagine coming to America with some other legendary faces. The role of the powerful King Jaffe Joffer, played perfectly by James Earl Jones, was originally considered for another icon, Sidney Poitier. And the role of Lisa McDowell, Prince Akeem's true love, almost went to actress and former Miss America Vanessa Williams before Sherry Headley was cast. Even Wesley Snipes auditioned for the role of Lisa's arrogant boyfriend, Daryl, but lost the part to Eric LaSalle. Snipes would have to wait over 30 years to finally join the world of Zamunda when he was cast as the villain in the sequel. Even James Earl Jones had a different role in mind at first. He originally wanted to play Lisa's father, the fast food restaurant owner Cleo McDowell. But Murphy and Hall convinced him that he was the only one who could play the mighty king of Zamunda. While some big stars almost got cast, other future superstars were hiding in plain sight in some of the film's smallest roles. If you look closely during the robbery at McDowell's, the man with the shotgun trying to hold up the restaurant is none other than a young Samuel L. Jackson. It was one of his earliest film roles, long before he became a household name. And in the iconic barbershop scene, there is a quick shot of a boy sitting in the barber's chair getting a haircut. That boy was Cuba Gooding Jr., making his very first appearance in a movie. He has no lines, but it was the start of a career that would eventually win him an Oscar. Finally, one of the beautiful rose bearers in the Zamundan Palace was played by a young Garcelle Beauvais, who would go on to star in the Jamie Foxx show and become a famous actress in her own right. The film was not just a vehicle for its main stars. It was an accidental launching pad for the next generation of Hollywood royalty. The unbreakable bond of James Earl Jones and Madge Sinclair.
Hello.
Hi. You know, I started on cleanup just like you guys. But now, see, I'm washing lettuce.
James Earl Jones played the booming, powerful King Jaffe Joffer, while the elegant Madge Sinclair played his wife, Queen Aeolian. Their chemistry on screen was undeniable. They were the perfect picture of African royalty. But what most fans never figured out is that their royal destiny together did not end in Zamunda. It was just the beginning. 6 years after they ruled Zamunda, the Walt Disney Company was looking for the perfect voices for a new animated movie, one that would become one of the biggest of all time. They needed a king and queen to rule over the animal kingdom of Africa. And who better to play the majestic Lion King and Queen than the actors who had already defined African royalty for a generation? In a stroke of casting genius, James Earl Jones and Madge Sinclair were hired to voice King Mufasa and Queen Sarabi in The Lion King. This incredible connection is something that flies over most viewers' heads, but it is a testament to how powerful their performances were in coming to America. Their on-screen presence as King Jaffe and Queen Aeolian was so regal and so convincing that they created a blueprint for what African royalty looked and sounded like in Hollywood. When Disney needed the most iconic Lion King and Queen in history, they turned to the King and Queen of Zamunda. Sadly, their second reign as royalty would be their last time working together. Madge Sinclair had been privately battling leukemia for 13 years. Just 1 year after The Lion King was released, she passed away in 1995 at the age of 57. James Earl Jones continued his legendary career for decades, eventually retiring from his most famous voice role, Darth Vader, in 2022. He passed away in September 2024 at the age of 93. The lives of the cast. When the cameras stopped rolling and the cast left the kingdom of Zamunda, their real lives took them on journeys that were more dramatic and surprising than any movie script. Some found greater fame, some found a deeper purpose, and some faced heartbreaking tragedy. Immediately after coming to America, Arsenio Hall became a cultural icon. In 1989, he launched The Arsenio Hall Show, and it changed late-night television forever. He brought on guests no one else would, from hip-hop artists to controversial figures. He famously hosted presidential candidate Bill Clinton, who played the saxophone on his stage, a moment that helped Clinton connect with young voters. The show was a massive hit, and Arsenio was on top of the world. Then, in 1994, he did something shocking. He walked away from it all. For years, people wondered why. The truth was a deeply personal secret. In 1999, his son, Arsenio Jr., was born. When his relationship with his son's mother ended, Arsenio made a choice that almost no one in his position would make. He quit Hollywood to become a full-time single father. He spent more than a decade out of the spotlight, trading fame for fatherhood. In his own words, "I was determined to be there for my son's first walk, talk, boo-boo, and whatever else. I did not want to miss a thing." He spent his days making turkey bacon and checking homework. His return to the spotlight only happened years later, when his son, then a teenager, encouraged him to compete on The Celebrity Apprentice, which he went on to win. It was a sacrifice that defined his life far more than any talk show ever could. After playing Princess Lisa McDowell, many expected Sherry Headley to become a huge movie star. While she worked consistently for decades, appearing in TV shows like the soap opera All My Children and the drama The Haves and the Have-Nots, she never quite reached that A-list level of fame. Some fans have wondered why, suggesting that her role, while central to the story, did not have as many iconic, scene-stealing moments as the male characters. But Headley's journey took her down a different, perhaps more meaningful path. She found a deep passion for community work and helping others. She became heavily involved with an organization called Saving Our Daughters, which works with young girls dealing with serious issues like bullying, domestic violence, and homelessness. Her dedication was so profound that in 2013, she received the President's Volunteer Service Award from President Barack Obama for her incredible work. For her, the acting career became, as she put it, the cherry on top of a life dedicated to making a real difference in the world. Eric LaSalle's character, Daryl Jenks, the heir to the Soul Glow empire, was one of the film's most hilarious villains. With his perfectly coiffed Jerry curl, he was the slick, arrogant boyfriend that Akeem had to beat. But after coming to America, LaSalle completely reinvented himself. Just 6 years later, he took on the role of the serious, stoic, and brilliant surgeon, Dr. Peter Benton, on the monster hit TV show ER. He played the character for 8 seasons, becoming one of the most recognizable faces on television and earning multiple Emmy and Golden Globe nominations. After leaving the show, he embarked on a new chapter in his career, stepping behind the camera. Today, Eric LaSalle is a highly respected and successful television director, helming episodes of major shows like Chicago PD, Law and Order, and Lucifer. He successfully transitioned from playing a memorable comic villain to becoming a dramatic actor, and finally, a powerful force behind the scenes. John Amos was already a legend when he played Cleo McDowell. He was known to millions as James Evans Sr. on the classic sitcom Good Times, and for his powerful Emmy-nominated role as the adult Kunta Kinte in the groundbreaking miniseries Roots. Before acting, he had lived a full life, playing professional football for teams like the Denver Broncos and Kansas City Chiefs, and even working as a social worker in New York. His role on Good Times made him America's dad, but he famously clashed with the writers and producers. He felt the show was putting too much focus on the comedic character JJ and his catchphrase, Dynamite, and was losing its authentic portrayal of a black family. His constant arguments led to him being fired, and his character was killed off, a move that shocked fans. This history of standing up for his beliefs makes the final chapter of his life even more tragic. In 2023, his family's private struggles spilled into the public eye. His daughter, Shannon Amos, created a GoFundMe page claiming that her father was the victim of elder abuse and financial exploitation at the hands of his son, K.C. Amos. The situation became even more confusing when John Amos himself appeared in a video, denying the allegations and claiming that it was actually his daughter who was taking advantage of him. The family was torn apart by accusations and distrust. The story took its most tragic turn in 2024. John Amos passed away from congestive heart failure on August 21st. But in a shocking twist, his death was kept secret from the public and even from his own daughter for 45 days. His son, K.C., finally announced the death on October 1st. Shannon Amos revealed in a devastating statement that she learned her own father had died by reading about it in the media, just like the rest of the world. The turmoil has only continued since his passing. Shannon has now filed a lawsuit against her brother, K.C., for wrongful death, fraud, and elder abuse. She alleges that K.C. isolated their father in his final days and had his body cremated quickly to prevent any investigation into the circumstances of his death. The lawsuit that exposed Hollywood's biggest lie.
Excuse me, I'll be right back.
Well, who was that?
Jehovah's Witness.
Of all the secrets hidden behind Coming to America, the biggest one had nothing to do with the cast or the on-set feuds. It was about the story itself and a legal battle that would expose one of Hollywood's dirtiest secrets. The film's credits say the story was created by Eddie Murphy, but a famous newspaper columnist named Art Buchwald claimed that was a lie. Buchwald had written a story treatment in 1982 called King for a Day about a rich African royal who comes to America and ends up in a tough neighborhood. Paramount Pictures loved the idea and signed a contract with Buchwald in 1983, planning to develop it as a movie for Eddie Murphy. After a few years, Paramount told Buchwald they were abandoning the project. But then, in 1988, they released Coming to America, a movie with a very similar plot, and gave Murphy the sole story credit. Buchwald was never paid or credited, so he sued Paramount for breach of contract. The court case was a Hollywood drama in itself. After a long trial, the judge sided with Art Buchwald. The court ruled that Coming to America was, in fact, based upon Buchwald's original idea, and Paramount had broken their contract. It was a huge victory for the writer. But the fight was only half over. Now, the court had to decide how much money Paramount owed him, and that is when the studio revealed its most shocking secret. Paramount's lawyers stood up in court and claimed that, despite making over $288 million at the box office, Coming to America had officially made no profit. In fact, they claimed the movie was $18 million in the red. How could a massive blockbuster hit lose money? The answer was a deceptive practice known as Hollywood accounting. Buchwald's lawyers dug into Paramount's books and uncovered the scheme. The studio had loaded the movie's budget with millions of dollars in fake costs. They charged massive overhead fees, meaning they paid themselves just for being the studio. They charged a 10% fee for advertising on top of the actual cost of advertising. They even charged the movie interest on its own budget. It was a system designed to make sure that, on paper, a movie could never show a profit, so the studio would not have to share any of the money with the creative people who made it. The judge was stunned. He called Paramount's accounting practices unconscionable, a legal term for something so unfair it shocks the conscience. This ruling was a landmark moment. It blew the lid off a secret system that studios had used for decades to avoid paying writers, directors, and actors their fair share. Fearing that this ruling would set a precedent that could cost them billions of dollars in other contracts, Paramount quickly settled with Buchwald, paying him $900,000 to make the case go away. In a final ironic twist, the lawsuit had been so long and expensive that Buchwald's legal fees were more than the settlement he received. He won the battle, but lost money in the process. The story of Coming to America is a tale of two movies. There is the one we see on screen, a joyful, hilarious, and heartwarming classic that has been loved for generations. Then there is the one that happened behind the scenes, a story of bitter feuds, secret tragedies, shocking lawsuits, and the often difficult realities of life after fame. The fact that such a beloved masterpiece was created amidst so much turmoil is a testament to the incredible talent of everyone involved. It is a legacy forged not just in laughter, but in fire and resilience.